You don't know it yet, but this Zigzagoon is one of the most impossibly rare Pokemon you've ever laid eyes on. Obviously, the Zigzagoon is shiny, which is pretty cool, but under the hood, it also has the perfect nature, ability, stats, and hidden power type for competitive play. Most importantly though, this Zigzagoon has the legendary move Extreme Speed. But why is Extreme Speed Zigzagoon so rare? Can't Zigzagoon just be caught, or at least bred with Extreme Speed as an egg move? Nope, it can't. Until Ultra Sun and Moon, Extreme Speed wasn't an egg move on Zigzagoon. It was only obtainable from a single game as a special gift egg. Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire for the Nintendo GameCube. Now, if you don't know, this game is essentially Pokemon Home for your GBA. It connects via the GameCube to Game Boy Advance cable and allows you to store and move Pokemon between your games. And in the US, it was only available at one location for a limited time, the now closed Pokemon Center in New York City. For this reason, US copies today go for insane prices. But there are ways of obtaining and playing Pokemon Box without spending $1,000. So let's say you did have everything required to acquire a Zigzagoon like this for yourself. How would you do it? Well, the egg is a gift for depositing 100 Pokemon into storage, and it's possible to receive multiple eggs by using multiple games and creating new saves. But if you wanted to do it as fast as possible, there's a way to corrupt your save data on the fly and receive unlimited eggs on a single cartridge. Either way, once you have 5 eggs, you'd send them to Emerald version for hatching and checking. It's the only GBA game where having a Flame Body Pokemon cuts egg steps in half, so any other game would just be wasting time. After hatching, you'd take them all to the IV judge and he'll tell you their highest stat. If its value is a perfect 31, he'll say it's flawless. If you have multiple 31 IVs, he'll pick one of them at random. On the very slim chance you actually do get a Zigzagoon with multiple perfect IVs, you can then use rare candies to level it up, calculate the exact IVs, and verify the hidden power is also perfect. So, that's one full cycle. Get 5 eggs, hatch 5 eggs, check 5 goons, repeat. You could do the receiving, hatching, and checking in larger batches, but no matter what, you can only hatch 5 eggs at a time per copy of Emerald. I took the liberty of timing one full 5-egg cycle out. It took me about 6 minutes to glitch 5 eggs into Pokemon Box, 7.5 minutes to hatch them, and 1.5 minutes to have the judge check each of them for multiple perfect IVs. 15 minutes for 5 chances at an otherwise unobtainable Pokemon. Not bad. So, how long should you expect to repeat this process in order to receive a Zigzagoon like mine? And why even bother when Lanoon's overall stats are on par with a dumpster Pokemon like Jumpluff? Well, grab a blankie and some snacks because this video is long for a reason. For starters, the Zigzagoon line is blessed with access to the move Belly Drum. This move cuts the user's HP stat in half in exchange for the maximum number of attack boosts. Extreme Speed is an 80 base power move, but Zigzagoon is a normal type, so it gets a 50% boost up to 120. It also has priority, so it almost always goes first, and when combined with Belly Drum, Lanoon reaches a staggering 1048 attack stat.
What I really want to know is how you keep popping in and out of reality.
There's another detail I forgot to mention. This Zigzagoon also has its second ability slot. In the GBA games, this doesn't matter because the only possible ability is Pickup. However, in Generation 4, the evolution line gained a second ability, Gluttony. This ability causes berries to be consumed in battle when the user is at 50% HP, rather than the usual 25%. This means after a Belly Drum, it can immediately eat a Salic Berry and gain a 50% speed boost, allowing it to comfortably outspeed faster ghost types like Gengar. The catch is that Extreme Speed Zigzagoon is unobtainable in the DS Pokemon games. So, if you want Gluttony Extreme Speed Lanoon to battle with online, it must be obtained from Pokemon Box, transferred as a Zigzagoon, and evolved in a Gen 4 game to attain the ability. With that in mind, how difficult is it to obtain perfect competitive stats? Well, Extreme Speed almost always goes first, so we can afford to use an Adamant nature to reach the maximum possible attack stat. And since it only uses physical attacks, we only need 5 IVs of the possible 6 stats to be flawless. It also needs a hidden power type of ground with a maximum power value of 70. This adds crucial coverage against steel types in Gen 3, and thanks to some very convoluted math, demands a very specific combination of IVs. The GBA era games have a very large but finite number of potential Pokemon they can generate. In this Zigzagoon's case, there are exactly 3 RNG states which produce a Zigzagoon like this, out of all 4.2 billion. Perfect IVs in all 5 of my desired stats, adamant nature, ability slot 2, and 70 BP hidden power ground. Which means the odds of any individual egg containing a perfect Zigzagoon are 1 in 1,431,655,765. So, if 5 zigs takes 15 minutes, per zig that's 3 minutes, multiply by the odds and convert the minutes to years, and...
Mother of God.
It's just a casual 8,171 years. Obviously, I didn't come back from the future to brag about the Zigzagoon, so if you're familiar with my content, you might assume that I RNG manipulated the IVs on Pokemon Box. But unfortunately, you can't. It's basically impossible on retail hardware, and emulator players have only accomplished this by abusing Dolphin's bugs or straight up hacking the CPU registers. So, obviously, this Zigzagoon is hacked. This was an elaborate bait, and we're done here, right?
That's right. You're a big fat phony.
Wrong. I obtained and hatched this precious little Poke Wonder using nothing but my 2 GBAs for trading and copies of Fire Red, Emerald, and Ruby live on twitch.tv. As for how I did it, I'm about to tell you, and the story begins with an unlikely Pokemon, Unown. Now, I'm no stranger to RNG manipulating Unown in Fire Red and Leaf Green. In fact, I successfully captured every single Unown shiny live on twitch.tv in just a few nights. I've got all the footage still, so if this seems interesting to you, just let me know in the comments. Unowns in Fire Red and Leaf Green generate differently than every other Pokemon in the game. Their unique personality value, or PID, determines their letter, and their IVs are determined using a unique RNG algorithm we call Reverse Method 1. When I asked myself, how do I get a 100% legal, competitive extreme speed Unown? My first instinct was to investigate what RNG algorithm is used to generate the Zigzagoon eggs in Pokemon Box. Thankfully, PikaHex already has this information documented, and in the latest version, hovering over a Pokemon tells you the algorithm that generated it if it's known. Here you can see some of my shiny Pokemon coming from Method 1, Method 2, GameCube, eggs, but when we hover over a box Zigzagoon, we'll see a different value, BACD_U. The only other Pokemon I have with a BACD PID is Shiny Wishmaker Jirachi, which I also RNG abused on retail, for which a video and guide already exist. Jirachi's PID shows as BACD_R, which I'd never seen before, but I knew from experience that Wishmaker Jirachi's 9 possible shiny spreads are generated via a restricted version of, you guessed it, Reverse Method 1. This lit a spark. I had a hunch that Zigzagoon was also generated by Reverse Method 1, but I wasn't sure. Thankfully, PikaHex is very well documented on GitHub, and a Google search for BACD_U PikaHex brought me to this wonderful explanation. This little line of code confirmed it. Pokemon Box Zigzagoon eggs were generated using Reverse Method 1, just without the same origin seed restrictions as Jirachi. The entire set of Reverse Method 1 PID and IV spreads were at my disposal, and thus, a beautiful plan had been born. We know from Pokefinder that exactly 3 spreads like this exist, so in order to choose one, I have to answer a couple questions. First, what letter were the unknowns? Luckily, I already had an Excel spreadsheet just for this purpose. I'll keep the explanation brief, but essentially by converting the PID to binary and looking at specific bits, you can extract a number, divide it by 28, take the remainder, and figure out what the letter is. Second, are any of these PIDs compatible with Pomeg corruption? Pokemon Emerald old heads might be familiar, but it's possible to use a Pomeg berry to reliably turn a Pokemon into a different species by corrupting it into an egg. This glitch was famously coined glitzer popping by Worcester in this video back in 2014. The downside of using glitzer popping is that the results are chaotic. Moves can get turned into gibberish that crashes your game, and those precious perfect stats can be lost. Thankfully, it's been a long time since 2014, and the side effects of glitzer popping are extremely well documented thanks to the glitch hunting community.
And here it is. The egg hatches, and hey presto, Deoxys. So,
by scrolling through pages upon pages of various wikis and pastebins, I was able to create a spreadsheet that allows me to easily plug in PIDs and know exactly what happens to their data when corrupted. And thankfully, there are a few types of Pomeg corruption that allow us to change species but leave the IVs intact. Similar to the real-life gene editing system known as CRISPR-Cas9, we can pick up and choose which segments of our Pokemon's code we want to alter without damaging the parts we want to preserve. As such, in homage to Worcester, I've dubbed this system Glitzer-Cas9, and it has two main corruption types. The first is EVs to species. Like the name suggests, it takes the Pokemon's HP and attack EVs and swaps the data with their species. For example, if you corrupted a Pokemon with exactly 151 HP EVs, it would turn into the Pokemon with index number 151, aka Mew. The second is attack to species, which takes the Pokemon's first move slot and swaps data structures with species. For example, Splash has an index number of 150. Corrupt a Magikarp and you'd find yourself with a hatchable Mewtwo egg. Both corruption types also share another side effect. The PID is altered by either adding or subtracting 4 to the first digit. Since nature is also dependent on PID, corruption changes the Pokemon's nature too. This means corrupting our Unown will result in the PID changing, thus ruining the whole reason we chose Unown in the first place. Its PID and IV combination will no longer be legitimate reverse method 1.
Wait, that's illegal.
You might think our journey stops here, but there's a neat quirk about PIDs compatible with Glitzer Cas9. They can change back and forth no matter how many times you corrupt them. Corrupt a Pokemon with the attack to species type, hatch the egg, corrupt it again, and it will use EVs to species next time, all the while never disturbing those precious perfect IVs. Even the PID change is perfectly reversed. If the first corruption adds 4 to the first digit, the second corruption will subtract 4. And if you're paying attention, you might see where we're going. If you're completely lost, don't worry, I'm going to explain everything, starting from step 1. In our case, step 1 is to take the 3 reverse method 1 PIDs we found in Pokefinder earlier and paste them into my spreadsheet. As luck would have it, exactly one PID is compatible with Glitzer Cas9. PID 0368F781. Pokefinder conveniently gives us the seed value that generates this PID, and by plugging it into the Seed to Time tool, we can find the nearest initial seed in Fire Red and Leaf Green. In this case, it's seed A43F. We also need to know which letter Unown our PID corresponds to, and according to my spreadsheet, this should be a J Unown. Unknown J can only be found in the Dilford Chamber in the Tanabe Ruins. The game forces only particular PIDs to show up, which is why we'll need to leave Pokefinder behind and instead use a special tool which calculates the exact frame where we can find this Unown. We crack open the excellent Unown Finder by Lincoln, plug in our seed of A43F, set the nature to adamant, put in our IVs, and generate the first 100,000 Pokemon. And there it is. Just 6 frames could result in us capturing our target J Unown, and fortunately, they are within a frame or two of each other. But regardless, we'll have to aim for a single frame window, 16.6667 millisecond accuracy. But it's possible. However, there's a significant hurdle we must overcome, the seed itself. I've used this word a lot up until now, and if you're not familiar, it's essentially the starting point for the game's pseudo-random number generator. This hidden system governs not only wild Pokemon stats, but everything luck-based in the game. The game predictably advances this system 60 times every second, so once you know the starting position, you can reliably predict what comes next and how long you need to wait to reach a desired outcome. The catch is that you need to be accurate down to the 60th of a second, often multiple times per attempt. The seeds for Fire Red and Leaf Green are set when you advance past the title screen. How long the game has been on, which buttons you press, your save file settings, and whether or not you skip the cutscene all matter. If you're frame perfect, you can reliably hit the same seeds in succession using a timer. However, even at peak human precision, you're only hitting the right seed 30 to 50% of the time. Thankfully, friends of the channel Shao and Blissey created an automated system for logging and recording seeds automatically using glitches and an Arduino. Their efforts managed to accumulate a massive number of seeds, but A43F isn't on any of the lists. From here, there are 2 paths. Path number 1 is to keep testing different timings and in-game settings, meticulously recording seeds until I find seed A43F. This could take days, weeks, or even months of effort with no guarantee of success, as there are 65,536 possible seeds. Path number 2 is to use the seeds we do have and try to find one that lands us close to seed A43F. I plugged Blissey's list of seeds into my tool Gen 3 Seed Assistant, which is a modified version of Pokefinder that can search multiple seeds at once. I set the IV and nature filters to match my desired unknown spread, set the number of frames to search anywhere from 0 to 20 million, hit search, and let my computer run the numbers. And as luck would have it, we have a winner. Seed DA38 on frame 538,653. But every 60 frames is only about 1 second of real time. This means waiting for 500,000 frames to pass is more than 2 hours per attempt. Why would I settle for such an egregious amount of time? Because I don't actually need to wait that long thanks to the most powerful item in Kanto, the Teachy TV. Using the Teachy TV, we can move the game's RNG forward at 313 times normal speed in exchange for adding 1 extra frame perfect input to our attempts. First, at the title screen to hit our seed, second, when we close the Teachy TV to stop the time travel, and third, when we use Sweet Scent to encounter the unknown. Altogether, thanks to I'm a Blissy's app Blissy TV, I calculated each attempt will only take about 2 minutes. Now, armed with this information, I could go straight to Dilfer Chamber and start making attempts, but there's another weird quirk about Unown I had to find out the hard way in my shiny Unown hunt. Because each chamber can only have a limited set of unknown letters, you wind up with a lot of duplicate unknowns, especially for the most common letters in the chamber. This means every unknown we capture could be any number of nearby duplicate frames. We'll be close, but we won't know exactly. If we're trying to tweak our timer to account for human error, frame rate drift, and whatever other analog factors might interfere, we need certainty. Especially when using the Teachy TV, where each frame of error equals 313 in-game frames. To counteract this, we're first going to make some attempts in a normal Sweet Scent scenario, mimicking all our timers and settings until we confirm that our 3 timers are perfectly attuned. Thanks to this pre-calibration, once I start aiming for unknowns, I should be hitting very, very close to my target frame. Thankfully, you don't have to watch this whole process, and instead we can jump right to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh yeah. Ponder the orb. Ponder the orb. That's a J. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But we can't get excited yet. We haven't seen its hidden power type. Things are happening. Things are happening. This could be it. $66 HP. Yes! Oh, let's count those IVs, baby! And finally, after 11 hours of time and effort, I acquired the perfect unknown. Now, to trade the unknown over to Emerald where the real fun begins. We're going to use Glitzer Popping to corrupt unknown once, without making any other modifications. Since the first corruption uses the attack to species type, it's going to use the index number of hidden power, unknown's only attack. This corresponds to the Pokemon Hitmontop. The first step is to clone our unknown multiple times using the Battle Tower cloning glitch along with a special Pokemon known as a Corruption Initiator. The Corruption Initiator is either the in-game trade Plusle or the in-game trade Lickitung from Fire Red and Leaf Green with a few extra stats. These Pokemon are necessary in order to stabilize the corruption and receive a hatchable egg. By cloning multiple Pokemon, we increase the likelihood of a successful corruption. Cloning is fast and easy using the Battle Tower glitch. We save the game in the Battle Tower, withdraw the Pokemon, go over to this lady, and she's going to ask us to save twice. We turn the game off right after clicking yes the first time. Then, boot up the game, and boom, your party Pokemon will be saved, but your boxes will be just like they were before. Now, we'll redistribute our clones in this weird pattern for maximum success rate, just trust me, and it's time to perform the Pomeg glitch. There are numerous guides on how to perform this trick out there, but for those unaware, the Pomeg Berry does the opposite of an HP up. By performing this specific sequence of switching and depositing, then using a Pomeg on a Pokemon at 1 HP, we can force its HP to drop to 0 without fainting. This glitches the game, allowing us to send out a non-existent Pokemon. He appears as an awkward-looking question mark symbol, and when we try to switch, we find we're allowed to scroll beyond the scope of our party Pokemon. The cursor scrolls past party slot 6 and into boxes 1 and 2 of the PC, moving bits around and causing all sorts of mayhem in the save file. We'll repeat this process a few times, checking our PC afterwards until one of our Unown is turned into a hatchable egg. Upon hatching this egg, we'll find it's a Hitmontop, as expected, and now it's time to start messing with its data. It's time to learn about Pokemon data substructures. A Pokemon's permanent data in Gen 3 is broken into 4 groups, each 12 bytes in length: growth, attacks, EVs, and miscellaneous. Growth contains the data for species, held item, experience, PP ups, and friendship. Attacks contains the data for the 4 moves and their PP. EVs contains a Pokemon's effort values and contest stats. Miscellaneous contains Pokerus status, Met location, origin data, IVs, ability, ribbons, and event flags. The order in which the game reads these substructures depends on the remainder of a Pokemon's PID divided by 24. This is exactly how Pomeg corruption causes such strange effects. The PID gets altered and thus the game reads the Pokemon's data in a different order. Glitzer Cas9 only works on corruptions where the miscellaneous substructure is completely undisturbed. In Hitmontop's case, when it's corrupted again, the other 3 structures will shuffle. Attacks gets read as EVs, which could be a problem, but fortunately when an egg hatches, all EVs are cleared, so any garbage data here is instantly corrected. EVs will be read as growth. The first 2 bytes of growth are the Pokemon species, and the first 2 bytes of the EV's substructure are the HP and attack values. Zigzagoon's index number is 288, and in hex that is 0120. 20 in hex is equal to 32 in decimal, so we need to gain 32 HP EVs. Easily accomplished using 3 HP ups and knocking out 2 Wurmple. 01 in hex is just 1, so we can knock out 1 Puchaina and get our 1 attack EV. Finally, growth gets read as attacks. Since the first 2 bytes of growth are species, move slot 1 is guaranteed to be hidden power. Move slot 2 and move slot 4 always wind up being garbage glitch moves, but move slot 3 is stable and corresponds with Hitmontop's experience value. So, in order to have the Zigzagoon egg hatch with extreme speed in move slot 3, we need the experience value to match extreme speed's index number exactly. This value is 245, and at level 5, Hitmontop has 125 experience. I need to gain some XP in order to set up the EVs properly, but whatever's left over can be handled by the daycare. Every step you take while a Pokemon is in the daycare gives 1 experience point. So I just need to look at Hitmontop's experience, make sure it's an odd number because you can only take steps by 2s, and then take him out when he's at exactly 245 experience. Once that's done, all that's left to do is complete the Pomeg corruption one last time. And thanks to Glitzer Cas9, the Zigzagoon's PID and IVs will be exactly the same as the original Reverse Method 1 Unown, thus making him indistinguishable from a Zigzagoon egg obtained from Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire. No hacking or emulator-assisted manipulation required. Inside this egg is a 5IV, Adamant, Extreme Speed Zigzagoon. But in order for him to hatch shiny, we need the egg to hatch on a save file with a matching Trainer ID and Secret ID. If you don't know, shininess is determined by Trainer ID, Secret ID, and the Pokemon's Personality ID being mathed together using an operation called bitwise exclusive OR. The best part is that once you know the PID, it's very easy to find a shiny Trainer ID and Secret ID combo using Pokefinder. The easiest game to manipulate TID and SID is good old Ruby and Sapphire with a dead battery. When the battery is dead, the seed is always 5A0, and the TID and SID are decided with just a single input. According to Pokefinder, I aim for frame 5246. That's about 86 seconds per attempt, and it only took a few tries since it's only 1 frame perfect input. Once I load into the truck, peek at my trainer card, and see ID number 26967, I'm in business. All I needed to do was play the game up until I got the Pokedex, head to a Pokemon Center, trade myself the egg, and start hatching. If everything went as planned, it should hatch shiny and have extreme speed in move slot 3. All that's left to do is the final cleanup phase. Since the summary screen will crash the game, we send Zigzagoon into his first battle and move extreme speed and hidden power to the bottom of the move list. Normally, I'd need to play the game up until the daycare to be able to level Zigzagoon up enough to forget all his glitch moves. Trading forces the game to display the move names and almost always leads to a crash. However, in a beautiful twist of fate, Pokemon Box allows us to transfer him back to my completed Emerald without crashing the game. We'll send Zigzagoon through to the very game he's been genetically engineered to originate from. Once he's in Emerald, we can feed him some cloned rare candies, and bike around out here long enough for him to learn Headbutt at level 8 and Sand Attack at level 13. Since it's so close, I won't save again until I've confirmed all the glitch moves are gone. The last thing I'd want to do is accidentally level him too far and lose extreme speed. Thankfully, I'm narrating from the future, and I can just show you footage of me withdrawing Zigzagoon from the daycare, opening up his summary, and gazing upon my beautiful son's move list for the first time. Lastly, I'll bring up Zigzagoon's data in PK Hex just to prove it's read as 100% legal. I could have reached a similar result without concerning myself with legality, but I really wanted to test the limits of my knowledge in Gen 3 and get my hands on a Pokemon I'm fairly certain no one has ever acquired on purely retail hardware. This Zigzagoon is more than just a rare and unique competitive Pokemon, stuck in a dead game, unlikely to ever see the heat of real battle. He's the culmination of the last 3 years of my life, learning the ins and outs of Pokemon RNG, glitches, and finally overcoming my video editing barriers. I've had the pleasure of meeting so many wonderful people on my Pokemon journey, and I hope this channel leads to me meeting many more. I'd like to extend thanks and credit to all the very smart folks whose research and effort made this possible. Admiral Fish for making Pokefinder, Lincoln for making the Unown Finder, Metacry for his extensive Pomeg glitch documentation, and my friend I'm a Blissey RNG, who I found on YouTube over 3 years ago now, and who taught me nearly everything I know about RNG manipulating Pokemon games on retail hardware. I urge you to head to that channel if you'd like to take your understanding of these games to the next level. What I've shown you here today is only the teeniest slice of what's possible, and I promise literally everything else you might do is 10 times easier and less complicated than this video. Lastly, I'd like to thank you for watching all the way to the end of this video. It's the very definition of a passion project, and at time of writing this script was over 4,700 words. I can't imagine what the total runtime is on the final product, but if you're listening to these words, then you have my gratitude. Maybe I'll see you over on Twitch sometime in the future, but for now, this has been Papa Hefe. Have a good one. Peace.